Hello, my name is James, and first of all, if you're just here for the recipe and some of the nutrition facts, here you go. Now, I'm going to be doing a video over chicken fajitas, specifically making them into a burrito. Now, this is a really quick and simple recipe that you can just make on your stovetop and then immediately put it into the stove and set it to be done with. And then you can use that 15 minutes or so to take a break, do whatever you need to do. The first step, of course, is going to be making it, and this can be done on any countertop. You just need your bowl and your ingredients, which we'll go through as we add them. Those will be peppers and onions. I bought them pre-chopped up because it's quicker for me, and I was just really easy at the time. But you can make this with fresh peppers and onions, and in fact, I suggest it. But this also works just fine. And you'll find that most of the ingredients are that way, where you can just kind of add or remove whatever you need or want. But this base recipe has those nutritional benefits. Now, this recipe is designed to make 14 servings. Now, each one of those servings will be about 2 cups. And you can do this in multiple batches to make it quicker if you would like. I'm just going to be mixing them all in one pan that you saw. And I'll be throwing away my trash afterwards. Our next ingredient is black beans. And this is chicken and black beans, but you can make this pretty easily vegetarian by just cutting out some of the chicken, because that's the only protein. You can add more protein to it in the form of other meats if you would like. I would not suggest adding any fruits to it because that doesn't really go with the flavoring we're looking for. But you can add any vegetables you think would taste good with this. The base thing is going to taste just fine, but I'm eventually going to be adding some personal seasonings that are going to change the amount of sodium particularly in it. But you definitely don't need to in order to make it taste good. And I'm probably only going to add it to half of it because I'm the only one who really likes it like that. Other suggestions I would have would be tomatoes and such like that. Now, I've been doing this below the camera, but I have added 4 cans of the black beans and 2 bags of the peppers and onions. And now, as you might be expecting, my thing's fairly full. And then, and this is the last ingredient before it goes into the oven for the first time, I have canned chicken breast. Now, you can shred this in the can if you want to. I prefer it as thicker chunks. This is also to taste. And again, if you want, you can use non-canned varieties. I know for black beans, the dried ones that you have to soak are generally going to be cheaper. And you can just price shop for chicken. I would suggest cooking chicken before adding it to this recipe, because the cooking in this is mostly to warm it up and blend it together. And I'm just kind of lightly patting it all over the top. I have a cat. I might give her some later. Not the fajita stuff, but I might save a piece of chicken just for her. So she's going to be meowing at me because she knows I do that. And I forgot to set my timer. But that's okay, because the oven's already preheated. I did that before the video. That's another time that I like to use just to get my ingredients ready and have everything nice and neat and set up. Saves me some time and energy. So, my current audience, of course, is you busy people. And this is pretty easy for me. should be pretty easy for most people to do, since you can do it on any level. The most difficult part is definitely the mixing and the putting it in the oven. But if you have some difficulty with that, such as a disability or a difficulty managing the oven door or a difficulty just standing on your feet that long, you can get some help. But otherwise, it should be fairly easy. Now, I did wash my hands before this because you are going to get your hands a little bit messy. Because the easiest way by far to mix this is with your hands. That way you can control how thick everything is mixed together. And I also did 4 cans of chicken that I showed you. I'm just going to massage the chicken and the beans into our peppers and give you an idea of what that's going to look like. But the way we have it now will give everything a pretty good layer. So this is just to really keep everything in there. And then we'd set it to put it in the oven. Now, this recipe is pretty self-explanatory, but it has several different vitamins and minerals that we can talk about. But I'm going to put it in the oven first. And I made this recipe myself, so I don't have an exact time to set it to, but I'm going to set it for about 10 minutes and see where that takes me. And my hands are a little bit messy, but here is our recipe board. You'll notice that there is cheese we have yet to add, and we'll add that for about 5 minutes afterwards just to melt that down onto there, but it doesn't turn out too well if you add the cheese before that. We also have our serving size at about 2 cups, and all of these are calculated by serving for you, so pause for that for a second. Okie dokie. Other information that you should be aware of is that this is a list of some nutrients and minerals inside of it that you can use, or that should already be in there. I calculated all of this info using the nutritional book that we were provided in nursing school. I believe I wrote it out here, Nutritional Essentials for Nursing Practice. However, you can also plan your fajitas around the MyPlate guidance, which we have. If you'll remember the vegetables we added on the bottom, and then the protein sources in the beans, and then we'll be adding some dairy in the cheese, and then we'll be wrapping this in a tortilla for the grains. The only thing we don't have is the fruit, sadly, which is kind of a failure of this, but you can substitute that with some nice applesauce, or really anything else you would like. The last thing I have on here is the CDC tips for eating healthy, many of which I also used to plan this because I wanted to make something that was fairly colorful, and just kind of stumbled across this recipe as I was experimenting. Most importantly, you'll notice on that nutritional facts is the protein. It has very, very high protein content due to the beans and the chicken we added. And it won't taste too terrible. It has fairly low sugars. The sodium's a little bit high for my taste, which is why I didn't add anything in the base recipe. But you could absolutely add more taco seasoning or taco sauce. You can also add black olives is a favorite. I know someone who likes to add sour cream to it to cut the spice a little bit. And I also know someone who likes to add like hot sauce and salsa. You can also cook tomatoes in with this, and that gives it a really nice, rich flavor. I would add the tomatoes, especially if they're canned, and especially if they're fresh, in with this before you add the cheese. Maybe add that after like a 5-minute mark, so it's 5 minutes of just this, then 5 minutes with the tomatoes or anything soft you want to add, and then 5 minutes with the cheese in order to melt it in. And you can adjust this ratio as you like. Sometimes I'll do like 2 or 3 minutes with cheese, just so that I know it won't burn. It all depends on how much fluid I'm planning on adding to it. So we'll see how that goes in a second. I might do that off screen, but I'll absolutely show you the end result. And if you've reached this point and are frustrated because I haven't shown you the ingredients list again, don't worry. You can skip to the end of the video and I'll put it up again. Lastly, some other things you can change is the tortillas. Now, this has some fiber, but not a whole lot. It has pretty high fiber due to the beans, and you can increase it by getting whole wheat tortillas or changing it to low carb tortillas if you're on a low carb diet. You could also just eat this as is if you're on a low carb diet, and that would be just as effective, if not more so. But yeah, that's about all I have for now. So I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to show you the end result whenever it's done. Okay, see you in a few. And welcome back. So, first of all, I have a couple confessions to make. While I was waiting for the first timer to be done, I went and did some studying. So, the original time of cooking before the cheese was added took a little bit longer. Not because it actually took longer, but because I was away from it. I would still suggest upping the time a little bit, just because it was still a little cold whenever I got back to it in the center. And you should probably stir it some too. But other than that, it's fairly simple. Still fairly quick. And if you actually remember to thaw your veggies like I forgot whenever I was doing it, it would certainly be quicker. However, after that, I went and I melted the cheese onto it. And ta-da! Now, a couple things to note is that I used half the amount of cheese I thought I was going to, just because I didn't want it to... I didn't mix it in with the mixture, because I wanted to give it a little bit less cheese. I wanted to cut back on the fat so much. So it goes to show some of the variations you can do are just as simple as removing some of the ingredients or adding in some of your own. But other than that, this was fairly simple. Now, the reason why you cook this, outside of just it tasting good or it being a good recipe, is that you can set it, forget about it, do a chore, go and do your work, do whatever, and you can come back later and everything will be cooked through however you wanted it. This is a good option as an alternative to fast food, to simple TV dinners, to some slow-cooked foods that you may not have the time to cook all the way through. And honestly, it's really just fairly easy. This is something that you could teach a teenager or a preteen and that they'd be able to put together and do without any real chopping work or any real cutting. So that's fairly safe for them. This is something that if you can teach them how to take it out of the oven safely, that they can also do as soon as they get home from school. If you wanted to put it in before you go to work and then say someone else is taking them home, they can take it out, put some cheese on it, put it back in, melt that on, and then they'd have a ready meal right there waiting for them, and you don't have to stop for fast food. This adheres to my plate very, very well, and it introduces some veggies that you may not be normally cooking with. So it adds some color and some flavor to an otherwise fairly bland palette of veggies. This is a good thing because most of these ingredients were canned, and cheese is generally fairly cheap, but you can also buy like blocked cheese and shred that, and that tends to be a little bit more stable in your refrigerator. But the canned ingredients can sit for ages because they're canned. So this can be something that you store and have as a backup option for those nights when you're really not feeling it. I'm going to turn my fan on, so this is going to get a little bit louder. There's not much trash to it. You don't need to worry about dishes all too much because, well, you saw my dishes. It was that, and I have a spoon for dishing up. And for mixing, if you don't want to get your hands dirty. The mixing can be fun, and that's a good family activity if you wanted to bring children into that. Overall, that is my fairly easy chicken fajita burritos. I'm not going to dish them up on camera because this is already going on fairly long and I'm leaving my time. But I will give you a quick video of the finished product in a burrito once this cools off. See you again in a second. And there you have it. Chicken fajita burritos. Easy to dish up however you would like and change however it would fit your needs. I'm just gonna roll it and I'm gonna give it a bite because I haven't eaten yet, so. Yeah, it's good. Okay. Before I get too far into it, my name is James. I'll put the ingredients up again, and then I'm gonna go back to eating.